Okay, this is just a quick review or my thoughts of a new powered paraglider harness that I got and installed. Um, I am new to the sport. I've only got 26 flights. 51 years old, but I have, I've been around the fire department. I've done a few other things, so hopefully my opinion can matter a little bit. Anyway, the Paramotor that I've got is a very old Sky Cruiser design that doesn't even exist anymore. There is a Sky Cruiser company that still makes similar paramotors, but the gentleman doing it now bought out the original company some time ago, and mine's from the original company. It may be getting close to 20 years old. It's got a top 80 that just keeps right on ticking. It's a high hang point with the J bars underneath your arms. And I kind of figured, I'd like to have a whole new setup, but I need to save up for that. And I'd like to get, weight shift and all that. But in any case, I got to looking at that harness, and it's just old, the harness that was on it. So I thought it might be rather smart to go ahead and put a new harness on it, not only just for safety, but maybe I can get in the seat a little bit easier. I would like to start using the speed bar, and I don't know if that old one ever even had the pulleys. If it did, they're long gone, and just some things like that. So I figured I'd get a new one. So this is what I got, one of the Apcos. Would have liked to have gotten a Super Air, but this one was just a little less expensive, and it seems to be fairly ubiquitous, either under their own name, or there's an awful lot of other ones out there that look very similar. Very likely, I can't prove it at this point, but very likely Apco makes them for several people, and then they just put their own logos and stuff on them. First thing that I noticed when I got it out of the box was there is absolutely no paperwork whatsoever with this thing. No instructions, no warranty card, nothing. So actually would have expected to find something in there. Okay, this is the old harness that was on it. So, here's the keepers, I guess, for a kick-in strap. I'm going to assume it's a kick-in strap, because if it's for a speed bar, like I said, the pulleys are long gone. This is my front mount reserve. It is a new gen reserve here. And here's all the bridles and stuff. And this is another thing that I was hoping that I would correct with the new harness. I don't like having all this exposed. I think there's too much UV on it. I don't like having all these zip ties on there. They work, but they're the inexpensive ones, which means they have sharp edges, and I'm just concerned that they're starting, that they might eventually wear into the cord, and then degrade the strength of those. I would rather have a lot of this cleaner and hidden more from UV and dirt and stuff. You can see how faded the thing is, but it's well made. I really have not felt like I'm gonna fall out of it in any shape, form, or fashion. I really do like the buckles. They are very substantial buckles. But it's got a nice pocket underneath here. You can put your stuff sack and everything, and pocket on either side. But it's just an old harness. Here is, again, the bridle for the reserve, and then the reserve just going to the carabiners. There wasn't a separate place for locking in your reserve. And some of these pictures I took mainly just for documentation purposes for myself, in case I needed to put it back if something didn't work, or just to kind of help guide me on putting the new one in, since, like I said, there was no instructions. Just how it's connected to the frame up top. Notice they're inside the bolts that hold the motor on. There's only 2 places for the carabiners, and I just documented that with my weight and had been flying it, it was in the one nearer to the motor. This is where the J bars were. Now there's the bolt right here, and it went quite a ways up, and it's just probably about a 1/2 inch piece of aluminum or steel, and then it was flattened up here. This is a lock nut, and then on the other side of it This harness, you can actually lift it all the way up. So this whole pocket was above the bolt, but on the back side is where the hole went through the webbing with a grommet, and there was an Allen head bolt on the other side. So you had access to both sides to be able to tighten that down. Now, this is going to be important on this new Apco. It's going to be a little bit different, if you're going to notice when we get there. So again, this doesn't carry really any weight. It just kind of holds the straps out. There may be a little bit of weight on that, but old design, but it's worked. Okay, so here's the old J-bar, and there's a couple of pins that you just kind of press in, and then the whole thing will just kind of pop out. And again, just kind of documenting where all the straps were so that I can try to match that up with the new harness. This is the back of the harness. The starter, the pull starter is right behind that. So this was going right up against that pull starter. And this is, I have no idea how many hours. This thing has actually been flown, but it's probably 15 plus, going on 20 years old. Okay, now we've got the new one. Now remember, on the old one, the buckle was on top, where you could get to it from the top, inspect it, tighten it, whatever you need to do. This one's underneath, and I found that a bit of a challenge, to say the least, trying to figure that out. So in order to get to them, I basically had to flip the whole harness up this way, upside down, so that I could get to the buckles. So if I need to do any adjustments, if I need to tighten it up or anything like that, I'm going to have to flip it like this. Luckily, the other straps have got just, there's like little loops that go around each one of these four, and then just kind of a buckle, one of those plastic buckles that connect it, so it's not going to be a difficult thing to do. But I just found it odd that this was underneath and is a little harder to get to. These are just some parts that I ended up buying for connecting to the J-bars, that where I was talking earlier about that locking nut and the Allen screw head bolt. This is what I had to get at the Ace Hardware to make a fix to be able to put the new one on. So there were a bolt, a washer, and a nut. So here's what I got. This is how I bought it, and this will insert into the hole in the J-bar, and then I kind of tried to bend it so that it would form to the J-bar, like this. So it goes inside. There are threads inside this, and this is going to be on the side, the outside, facing away from me. You'll also notice I ended up having to grind probably about a quarter to a half inch off the top because of the new pocket. Remember, the old pocket stopped about here. The new pocket, they kind of flip things around, I'll show you, but it needed to go a lot farther down, so I had to grind a bunch off. And of course, I painted it before I did that, so now that looks horrible, but it's covered with a pocket. So that's where I ground everything off. Okay, so this goes to the front, and I may end up having to either epoxy it, or with those holes, I may end up drilling little holes in there and putting some rivets just to make sure this doesn't spin, so I can really tighten it down on the back side. This is the pocket. Now on the last one, on the original one, the grommet was on the back side, and it was hung down below this pocket, and you could pull the webbing up, so you had access to the front and the back. The way they've done this one on this one, the grommet's on the front, and you have no access whatsoever to the back side. That's why I had to try to find something else that I could put in there and leave in there. I couldn't do a carriage bolt. If I did a carriage bolt, then it would stick out about this far, and then you'd never get that over. So yeah, I'm probably going to end up drilling some holes, small holes in here, and pop riveting that to make sure that this doesn't move and I can crank it down real tight. But that was an unexpected thing I had to do. So slipping it over, and then this is the grommet that's built onto the webbing. Then I put a washer in there, and then that's got a Allen screw kind of thing, and I made sure I've got an extra one that fits that to put in my toolbox. So that should work. Okay, so now I've got it on there, and I'm doing a little bit of hang testing. It's kind of funny. I got up there first, and I hung, there's a steel beam up there, and I hung my strapping and connected it all in, and it was really, really leaning me forward. And then I realized this harness, the regular carabiners that you use are down here. Up here up top is where you put in your rescue or your reserve. Right now I don't have any mullions for that, so I just grabbed the carabiners off my free flight harness to put in there, and then I ordered some mullions, and I'll swap that out. But anyway, originally I hooked in here, and no wonder it's really going forward. But I did my hang test, did a bunch of an adjustment, and it seems to be pretty good. I'm not able at this point, and maybe it's because I'm just being careful doing that hang test. I didn't really pull my knees up like I'm trying to put my knee into my face or anything, but I wasn't able to just lift my legs and slide into the seat. So I may still have to let off the toggles and use one or both hands to kind of push the board underneath. But once I was in the seat, it did seem a lot more comfortable. It seemed a lot more secure, a whole lot better padded. This little board extension, I was able to flip that up. That felt a whole lot better. And getting that kind of an adjustment, I was able to get out of it very easily. And so overall, once I was in it, it felt better. These leg straps, I do like that. Unlike my other ones, I can tighten them, and it is very easy to loosen them, even in flight, just like any of the modern harnesses, because it is a modern harness. What I didn't like about that is these straps are probably twice what it needs to go around my legs. I'm only 5'5", weigh about 165, 170, so I'm not skinny, but I'm not fat. And once I had them tightened up and in the seat and stuff, I mean, there's a good foot and a half of this strap just hanging loose with not really any kind of way to tuck it back neatly any place. So I may have to fold it back a couple times and then just take some thread and kind of sew it to itself just to shorten it a little bit, so it's not too long. And then that's with the reserve kind of mounted to the front as well. Reserve seems to be a little bit higher, and so anyway, here it is from the side, and I've already done a little bit more work on this. I've folded this line over on itself a little bit, and there's a neoprene sleeve, and I've been able to cover a whole lot more of it with that neoprene sleeve, and now it only hangs down about this far. So I've been able to shorten that up again already. Have not been able to fly it yet. Was going to today, but it was too windy and gusty during the day, and towards sunset there was a pretty good dark cloud coming over Memphis up in this area, and I thought I was a little too close to be trying that. But overall, I mean, I'm hoping it'll be a whole lot more comfortable for me, and definitely not a lot newer. Safety factor, equivalent or better. And anyway,